Good evening. We will now open the floor for input from the public on the 2025-2026 budget. If you would like to address the board, please come to the microphone. You will be given 3 minutes to address the board. To assist with timing, the lights on the table in front of me will change colors from green to yellow to red. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow. When your time is up, the light will turn red and you will hear a tone indicating your time to speak has expired. We have several people who have signed up, and I do want to say, I am so excited. I think in my 12 years of serving on the school board, I have never seen this. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys rock. This is what we need to see when we have a budget. We need to see and hear input from you guys. So I am so excited. I walked out and I went, whoa. But it's a good whoa. So thank you so much for being here. And with that, we're going to get started. We do have the first person who signed up, and that is Don McAdams. Is Don here? Okay. Don McAdams and crew. Okay. And I was wondering, okay, all these people couldn't have signed up. So
they're here to support me.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And the time will start once you start speaking.
Good evening, Dr. Scott, esteemed board members, Dr. Moore. My name is Dawn McAdams, and I'm the coordinator for health services for Richland School District 2. I've been with the district for almost 28 years and in this role for nearly 18 years. I'm here tonight to advocate for school nurse staffing and salaries for both my full-time nurses and my guest nurses. There are currently 37 full-time registered nurses with 1 vacancy and 12 guest nurses. School nurses come to Richland 2 with prior nursing experience, yet they are not paid commensurately for their nursing experience as in other Midland school districts. Richland 2 nurses do not receive extra pay for advanced degrees or national certifications. Including our guest nurses, 17 nurses have their ADN, 27 have their BSN, and 5 have their MSN or higher, with 3 currently licensed as advanced practice registered nurses. I'm currently the only national certified school nurse. There are 15 nurses interested in taking the rigorous exam and 5 nurses interested in the pediatric nurse exam, but there's no compensation for this recognition. School nursing is not for the faint of heart. Strong clinical assessment and clinical judgment skills are a must. As an RN, the school nurse is the only licensed healthcare provider in the school setting who must be able to quickly transition from auditing immunizations, developing an IHP, administering daily medications, assisting with an injury, to a life-threatening emergency such as anaphylaxis or cardiac arrest. In your handout, you will see the current health room visit data reported to the Department of Education monthly and the National Association of School Nurses. The nuances of school nursing are great. Onboarding, orientation, and ongoing mentoring are labor-intensive. It takes an average of 3 to 5 years for a new school nurse to feel confident integrating nursing into the school setting. Each year, I'm faced with hiring roughly 5 to 7 new nurses. For the first time in my 27-plus years, we had to hire agency nurses to fill staffing needs. Many days, nurse staffing goes unfilled, and schools are left with an on-call nurse who's nearby to administer insulin to students with diabetes and manage emergencies. I would like to see an increase in experience credit on the nursing salary schedule, guest nurses paid at $35 an hour, recognition of advanced degrees and national board certification. In addition, we need 4 RNs to have 2 RNs per high school and a lead nurse. This would allow 3 nurse coaches and a lead nurse to mentor, coach, and assist with retention, and the second nurse in a high school to help cover nurse absences. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much. But we do have a question for one thing. What is UAP? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry?
What is UAP?
UAP is unlicensed assistive personnel, so our health room assistants.
Oh, okay.
So if you're looking at the total visits,
Yes.
so 73,000 health room visits through February of 2025, and the pediatric ER at Richland sees 67,000 annually. We have already surpassed what they see in a year in the first 6 months of school.
Thank you. We just wanted to know what
Okay.
that terminology was.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Tori Bate, and I think, Tori, you were here the last meeting. Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, school board members. I'm Tori Vaith. You may remember me from the last meeting. I'm a board certified behavior analyst for Richland 2. My colleagues Lauren Sturkey and Mel Gerald are here as well. You'll be hearing from Mel later. I spoke at the last board meeting to introduce ourselves and outline the work that we do, the value we bring to the district. If you'll remember, we prepared a document with you for further details and job descriptions for similar positions. I just wanted to remind you that teachers and staff often cite behavior as a contributing factor to burnout. And because we are district employees and not outside contractors, we're able to build those relationships and get better buy-in from staff and faculty. And our expertise has also been provided for both compensatory services and mediation agreements for highly contentious cases involving legal proceedings. Our services have also prevented costly litigation in some cases. And we're here today to ask for your support in increasing our salaries. We are currently being paid on a teacher salary despite having additional training and certification. Our hourly rates in the district are around $40 an hour, depending on our years of service. We are providing the required supervision for the registered behavior technicians working in our schools, and most of those are hired through staffing agencies. The district is paying $45 an hour for their services. Clinical BCBA positions in the greater Columbia area start at around $80,000. In closing, we're grateful for the opportunity to serve our students and our faculty and staff in Richland 2. We truly do love our work. However, we would just like to bring to your attention that there is a highly competitive market for BCBAs, and we kindly request that you prioritize increasing our salaries to reflect our commitment and the value that we bring to the district. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. We'll now have Lisa Ellis.
I have handouts. Do y'all want them now or after my wonderful remarks? Okay. Good evening, distinguished board, members of the school board. My name is Lisa Ellis, and I'm the Director of Student Activities at Blythewood High School. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the need to increase salary supplements for teachers who sponsor extracurricular activities. Teachers are the backbone of our education system, dedicating time and energy to ensuring our students receive a quality education. Beyond the classroom, many take on additional responsibilities by sponsoring clubs and leading extracurricular programs that enrich students' lives. Yet the compensation for these efforts remains inadequate. With the ongoing teacher shortage, it is increasingly difficult to find educators willing to take on these roles. Teachers are being asked to do more with fewer resources, and when we fail to fairly compensate them for extracurricular sponsorships, we send the message that their time outside the classroom is not valued. This discourages participation and ultimately limits students' opportunities. Extracurricular activities play a vital role in student success. Research shows that students involved in these programs perform better academically, develop stronger social skills, and are more likely to graduate. Whether it's drama, robotics, debate, or student council, these programs teach leadership, teamwork, and perseverance, but they cannot exist without dedicated teachers leading them. What's most concerning is that our district's extracurricular supplements have not increased in over 24 years. The cost of living has risen and teacher responsibilities have grown, yet compensation has remained stagnant. While we appreciate consistency among the district's 5 high schools, we also recognize that each school has unique needs. Flexibility in supplement allocation would ensure fair compensation based on time commitment, specialized skills, and program demands. Increasing salary supplements is an investment in our students, teachers, and schools. It ensures we continue offering diverse programs that help students thrive. It also fosters an environment where teachers feel valued rather than overburdened. I urge you to consider the impact of properly funding these supplements for the betterment of our entire school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We do have Ashley Truss.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Ashley Truss, and I'm the Student Activities Director at Westwood High School. I am here tonight to advocate for an increase in extracurricular stipends. This is only my second year in this role, and when I stepped into it, I quickly realized how much additional time I would be spending at the castle. While I absolutely love my job and have a deep passion for helping students thrive, the reality is that the time, energy, and planning that we dedicate far exceed what we are compensated for. Our role is not just about planning fun events. It is about fostering student engagement, strengthening public relations, and ensuring that our students, families, and community feel connected to our schools. If you look at the National Association for Student Councils, you will see that our district is the only one in South Carolina where all 5 high schools has received the Gold Award, which is the highest national honor that student councils can receive. This speaks volumes about the leadership, innovation, and dedication of student activities directors and the students that we support. This national recognition is something that our school district can proudly highlight as a testament to the strength of our student engagement efforts. However, achieving this level of success does not happen overnight. The events and programs that we oversee takes weeks, sometimes months to plan and execute. We work evenings, weekends, and beyond the traditional school day to coordinate homecomings, leadership workshops, community service projects, and student recognition events. These are the moments that define a student's high school experience, build leadership skills, and strengthen school spirit. Beyond student engagement, our role is instrumental in building positive public relations and connecting families to our schools. Many parents who might not otherwise step into the building attend events like our Red Hawk Kickoff, induction ceremonies, and our annual Harvest Festival. We actively invite parents to volunteer, ensuring they feel like a valued part of our school community. To give you a clear picture of the scope of our work, I am leaving you with a comprehensive calendar of our major events, appreciation weeks, and student activities throughout the year. This list highlights not only the large-scale programs we manage, but also the countless hours of preparation, communication, and collaboration that go into making them successful. What this list does not capture, however, is the behind-the-scene work, the late nights, the time spent filling in for admin, and the sacrifices that we make to ensure that these initiatives are running smoothly. It also does not include the number of advisors that help us with other clubs and organizations who are also severely underpaid with their extracurricular stipend. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Esther Claveau.
All right. Good morning, board members and Dr. Moore. My name is Esther Clairvaux, former teacher and team leader and current guest teacher. Due to other professional obligations, I no longer serve as a full-time teacher in the classroom, but have devoted time for guest teaching. When I initially assumed the position, I wasn't aware of the pay. I was intrinsically motivated. However, after learning that certified teachers are able to get their daily rate pay on day one of guest teaching, it was like icing on the cake. It also allowed those who were extrinsically motivated to return to the classroom. Many certified teachers in South Carolina have left the classroom, but not the love of teaching. Knowing this, I shared with everyone I knew in that category about what Richland 2 was doing, and many became guest teachers. This past summer, guest teachers were invited to a meeting where a new vendor was introduced. What was disappointing was that the new scale pay for certified teachers was only $5 more than a student or guest teacher with a GED or high school diploma. Here I stand today to represent students who deserve to have a highly qualified guest teacher in the classroom when necessary, and those who still love teaching but want to be fairly compensated for their knowledge, expertise, and experience. I remember when I was a guest teacher in a classroom, a student had a question about an assignment. Before I can give a response, another student interjected and said I couldn't help that student and they would have to wait for the teacher until they returned, inferring that because I am a guest teacher, I don't have the qualifications or knowledge to teach the class. In another classroom, a teacher knew that I was a former teacher, so before leaving the classroom for her professional development, she introduced me to the class and insisted that if they had any questions about the assignment, she was confident that I can give an explanation, inferring that because I am a certified guest teacher, I have the qualifications or knowledge to teach her class. Weeks upon weeks, we sit here to discuss student progress, chronic absenteeism, teacher vacancies, and many other topics related to the district. And we can all agree with one thing: every day counts. We are a premier school district. We make premier decisions, one of which should be to dispel the stereotypes of substitutes. We are not babysitters. Some of us are retired or former certified teachers. We've changed the name from substitutes to guest teachers. Now let's change how we value guest teachers by paying us our certified daily rate on day one of service. Imagine being a district where a good number of guest teachers are certified or retired, where teachers can feel at ease knowing that learning is still made visible in their absence, where administrators can be productive knowing that they will not be interrupted to diffuse a situation in a classroom with a guest teacher, where parents can be rest assured that their guest teacher in their classroom didn't graduate from high school 10 months ago, but is a certified teacher who holds advanced degrees, but most importantly, years of teaching experience. I'm not saying to forsake those who are uncertified. What I am saying is that there should be a substantial difference when it comes to compensated uncertified and certified guest teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Regina Germany Cherry. Oh, Miss Cherry. Okay, we know you, Miss Cherry.
Yes, you do. So good evening, esteemed board members, Dr. Moore. I'm just going to co-sign on my counterparts, Ms. Ellis, Ms. Truss, and Ms. Fennell. I'm a Student Activities Director at Richland Northeast High School, and I'm here to advocate for the increase of stipends for our school's sponsors and our activity directors. So despite the clear impact on student success, we struggle to find teachers willing to sponsor clubs because of the amount of work required does not match the current stipend. Running a club is not just about showing up for meetings, it's about planning, mentoring, and fundraising, and coordinating with school administration. Without fair compensation, we are at risk of losing these crucial opportunities for students. Teachers would love to support clubs and activities, but hesitate because the workload simply does not match the stipend offered. Side note, just last year, I had to fill in the gaps. I was the freshman class advisor, junior class advisor, and senior class advisor because of So, so many people don't fully understand the scope of our role as student activities directors. It's more than just planning fun events. It's coordinating every club and organization, supporting advisors, and ensuring students have meaningful opportunities for leadership and involvement. It also includes being a community liaison, fundraising, and so much more. On top of managing student government, we are also responsible for large-scale events like prom, homecoming, graduation, and fall and spring festivals, all of which takes months of preparation. We juggle countless responsibilities, often sacrificing our personal time to make sure these events run smoothly and provide students with the best possible experience. Additionally, our role as student activities directors often extends beyond event planning. We are regularly called upon to assist administrators, whether it's helping with student supervision, testing, morale, or school-wide initiatives. Our work fills in the gaps where needed, yet the compensation does not reflect the countless hours spent ensuring these programs thrive. Also, as my colleague, Ms. Truss, mentioned previously, we are part of the branding of our schools and a huge part of how our school engages with the community. Community engagement and public relations help our schools and our district by building positive relationships with the community, enhancing their brand reputation, fostering loyalty, and attracting new customers, creating a positive public image, and ultimately driving business growth by demonstrating social responsibility and actively participating in the local environment. We do this by the various activities and events that we host every year. We love what we do, and we see firsthand how these activities transform students' high school experiences. However, in order to continue providing these opportunities and growing student engagement, we need your support in increasing stipends for not only student activity directors, but all academic stipends. If we want to contribute building a culture of engagement, leadership, and student success, we must ensure that those of us working tirelessly behind the scenes are recognized and fairly compensated for the time and energy we pour into our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Now we will go to Melissa Jurl.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Moore. My name is Melissa Gerald, and I am one of the BCBAs in Richland 2. I am here with my fellow BCBAs, Lauren Starkey and Tori Vaith, to briefly address our compensation needs. During our previous address to the board, we provided an overview of what we do, the assets we bring to the district, as well as the workload increase and how it has increased over the years. We provided the board with information detailing how our salary compares to other school-based BCBAs, clinic BCBAs, and state agency BCBAs. Today, I want to talk to you about my reason for working in Richland 2, despite the discrepancy in compensation. I've been working in Richland 2 since 2015, and I began as a special education teaching assistant. Between the three of us, we have over 30 years of experience in special education. I have built relationships with students and staff, and also families that I'm currently serving. I support students that I've been supporting since elementary school, some of whom are now in high school. I also have students of my own that graduated from Richland 2, one currently in high school. Behavior, as we know, behavior support is a critical priority both nationally and within our school district. We are fortunate that our special education leadership team values our contributions as well as the work we are doing within the school. We are currently actively navigating complex and sensitive situations involving students, school staff, and families, often facilitating critical conversations to ensure positive resolutions. My colleagues and I have worked in Richland 2 schools in the classrooms before transitioning into our current roles as BCBAs. We have all built relationships with school staff and families. As educators, we are committed to the district, which feels like home to us. Please consider making this home that we value so highly. Please provide our value and worth by providing us with marketable compensations. Thank you.
Patton. Okay, my apologies, Ashley.
I'll answer to whatever. All right. Good evening, Board Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore. My name is Ashley Patton, and I'm coming to you tonight as a speech-language pathologist, also known as an SLP, employed here in Richland 2, and I've been here for the past 13 years. I am also a parent of 2 students enrolled in the district. One of them actually receives speech therapy services. I'm here tonight to continue the conversation that we started last year about SLPs and our concerns regarding how we are compensated in comparison to the other related service providers in our district. Since 2018, we have seen a steady increase in the number of students receiving speech therapy services in the district, as well as more complex cases where students have greater needs with the rises of autism and developmental delays. In addition to the increased number of students, we are also experiencing difficulty recruiting and retaining SLPs. As caseloads continue to rise, and with no increase in salary, we're not able as a district to be competitive with other clinical and medical settings, along with other nearby districts that offer significantly higher salaries. We, as a speech department, pride ourselves on the quality of services we deliver. We love our students. We love seeing them succeed. If the district wants students to continue to receive quality services, then we need to be able to recruit and retain high-quality SLPs. When I last checked, we had 6 vacancies posted for the upcoming school year, and contracts have not come out yet.
If we can't fill our vacancies, that means higher caseloads for the SLPs, which directly impacts the quality of services we can provide for our students. We request that as you work on the budget for the upcoming year, you consider increasing our salaries to make it equitable when compared to the other related service providers in the district. It is our hope to be on a professional salary schedule that aligns us with our therapist counterparts and that takes into account the degree and expertise we bring to Richland 2 students. With an increase in salary, it will make it easier for us to recruit and retain SLPs and to continue to provide quality services to students to help them become future ready. Thank you for your time and for allowing us to speak tonight.
Thank you so much. We now have Paige Fennell.
It's my birthday today, that's why I'm a little dressed up. So, yeah. Good evening, Richland 2 School Board members and Dr. Moore. My name is Paige Fennell, and I have served as the Student Activities Director for Ridgeview High School for the past 7 years. I appreciate the opportunity to share just a little bit about my position and those of my colleagues at the 4 other Richland 2 high schools as we advocate for an increase in the supplements and stipends that are allocated to our positions and other advisors who serve through student activities. They will certainly agree that no one truly understands the role we play in shaping the experience of our students unless they have held this very unique position. Over the years, we have become our own support system to problem solve, share concerns, inspire each other, and more. Although there is some variety in our schools, there are many activities that we all have a central role in executing that are core memories for our students, their families, and the larger community. The planning of prom, graduation, assemblies, and spirit weeks just barely scratches the surface of what we are tasked with each year. On any given day, we may have multiple meetings that focus on different events that will take place within the next day, week, or months later. For instance, something like prom doesn't happen overnight, especially when students are empowered to do the planning. It is literally 9 months in the making, and that effort is reflected in the final result. We must be available to meet with everyone, from students eager to start a new club, an advisor planning an induction ceremony, assistant principals concerning an upcoming event, or representatives from Jostens about graduation. And yes, this is Tuesday, and I've had all of those meetings in the past 2 days. The amount of knowledge that we possess is something that is valued at our schools from knowing the calendar and what's next for the school or how to operate the sound system. Our ability to troubleshoot and think on the spot is unmatched, particularly when tasks are given to us with little notice. We make it look good, even with little preparation, because we do it for our students, staff, and community. Each Student Activities Director advises the student government of their schools, which involves serving as a guide and mentor to dozens of students who we empower each day to be the voice of their fellow students and force a change within their schools. They represent each of the schools in our district in various capacities, get elected to serve on a state level, and represent the very best of what capable student leaders are in high school and beyond. We spend an extraordinary amount of time with these students, whether it's before school, in meetings, late into the night making posters, setting up for assembly, or on a bus as we travel to several conferences that we are fortunate to attend. We are often their outlet, safe place, sounding board, and yes, writers of those letters of recommendations. We truly love our jobs and have the pleasure of seeing how our efforts impact our student, school, and community as a whole. Sometimes those rewards are instant, such as a student having an amazing performance at assembly. Other times the impact is felt years later. We really hope that you would consider our request to increase our stipends as well as supplements for all those involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Paige, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Next, we will have Major Perry.
Stay on sides. Stay on sides. Dr. Elkin Scott, Dr. Moore, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you all. My name is Major Gregory Perry. I'm the Senior Aerospace Science Instructor at Spring Valley High School. Since the last time we spoke, you gave me the opportunity to introduce myself and to my program to you all. Since that time, SC064 has done exactly what we said we were going to do, and that is make this district and Spring Valley famous. Our traveling teams, that is our Raiders, our drills, our academic team, even our aerospace teams have competed in 7 different events since September, bringing home 40 trophies and 5 overall championships, again, making the district famous. Back in September, we began our inaugural class of Flight Academy. Now, if you allow me to remind you, the United States Air Force will actually award 300 students with scholarships over the summer for those that will qualify for Flight Academy. Over the summer, they send them to school, and for 8 weeks, they'll teach them ground school and give them the opportunity to earn a private pilot's license without any military commitment. So this year, back in September, we began our inaugural Flight Academy class. We started with 10 students coming in every other morning, learning the difference between an aileron and an elevator, if you will. After each cadet had the controls of a private airplane and on 3 successful flights, we've been graced to have 2 of our cadets earn selections as alternates. One of them is with us today, Ms. Jaden Quinn. It is my expectation that these 2 are going to be picked up before the academic year ends, and next time we see them, they're going to have their private pilot's license. But honestly, I'm here to share with you that there's a need for a Flight Academy in District 2. With these cadets strutting around the campus in their flight suits, you see they look really sharp, they are becoming the envy of all the students that say, you know what, I like that, I want that. And so in the fall, I'm going to need your assistance. I need you to include a line item for JROTC Flight Academy for $6,500. This will enable us to host the class again, to pay for the flight instructor, give each cadet who enrolls 3 to 4 flights before he has to take his avionics qualifying test. I envision Flight Academy honestly becoming a standard for JROTC, a type of calling card, if you will, where students say, I want to come to District 2 because I know that school over there has a Flight Academy program. And guess what? Spring Valley is going to make that happen. Again, I petition you to make JROTC Flight Academy an ongoing line item that you regularly fund. Our kids, our school, our district will benefit from this program. Thank you for your consideration. If you allow me, anybody want to say anything about the benefit of the program? Jaden?
Well, I will say that I have been...
If you can go to the mic, and I'll give you guys about 30 seconds, maybe 2 of you, to speak about the program.
Yes, ma'am. As Major already stated, I'm one of the selectees or alternates for the Flight Academy program over the summer. With this program, I have been selected I will be able to go to a school for 8 weeks to take classes in aviation and be able to earn my private pilot's license. So that's very exciting for me. And if you don't already know, getting a private pilot's license, it's a big thing. It takes a lot more than 8 weeks usually, and it takes a lot of money. So being able to have this opportunity to go for free with the scholarship is really amazing because I also don't get to see people like me in aviation a lot. So it also feels like I'm paving a way for other students to be able to do things like this.
Thank you.
So I didn't get selected for the program, but it does give me certified ground school hours and flight time, which has allowed me to put that in my application for the U.S. Army Warrant Officer Flight Procurement Program. So this puts me ahead of other high school to flight school applicants as being able to give them certified hours that they can look at and be like, okay, this kid has experience in aviation and he wants to pursue it. So this program has given me the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Once again, thank you all so very much for coming out. I'm very delighted to see all of you, and I hope you continue to do this at the next board meeting because it makes a huge difference when we see the presence, and then we know that you're serious. It's one thing to get the emails, but it's completely different to have you guys come out and share, your expectations of what you would like to see from the school board. So thank you so much for that. This does conclude our allotted time for the public input on the 2025-2026 school budget. Thank you to those who came out to share their thoughts on the upcoming budget. Please be reminded that we have another input session at 5 p.m. on March 25th. We will now move on to the next agenda item, which is 2.1, call to order. Good evening. I call the March 11th, 2025 regular board meeting of the Richland 2 School Board to order. Mr. Trapp will be joining us shortly. 3.1, approval of agenda. The agenda for tonight's meeting has been published and made available. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Washington.
I move to approve the agenda for the March 11, 2025 regular board meeting.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington and seconded by Mr. Gary to approve the agenda. Mr. Dennis, Mr. Gary Dennis. Is there any discussion? Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. The motion is 6 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We will now move to item 4.1, executive session. May I please have a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Washington.
I move to convene an executive session for the purpose of discussing receipt of legal advice on a contractual matter regarding the purchase of property, student admission requests into the district's adult education program, and employment recommendations and certified releases.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington. Is there a second?
Second.
See, he's trying to be funny. No. The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington and seconded by Mr. Dennis. Is there any discussion? Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. The motion is 6 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. The board will now enter into executive session. May I have a motion to end the executive session? May I have a motion to end the executive session?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Nash.
I move that we ended executive session at 6:16 for the Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 executive school board meeting.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Nash. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Nash and seconded by Mr. Trapp to end executive session at 6:16 p.m. and resume public session. Is there any discussion? Board members, is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Ms. Tanidra, I think a few are still waiting to vote. Ms. Porter, you didn't vote?
No, but it says I did.
So is that your, okay. Okay, the motion is 7 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We will now move to item 5.1, inspirational moment. Inspirational moment, Ms. Shelley Williams will present for the evening.
Good afternoon. I have the pleasure of introducing Blaze Jameson. He's a sixth grader at the leadership at E.L. Wright Elementary Law Program. He's an honor roll student and soon to be a Beta Club inductee. He co-anchors the PAC News team, sharing daily jokes to build school spirit. Blaze plays the trombone in the school band and participates in the PAC Build Better Futures mentoring program. Passionate about comedy, he has performed in local youth theater and organized the benefit comedy show promoting Black Joy. He's now planning a summer show for rising middle schoolers. Outside of school, Blaze plays multiple instruments, he enjoys sports, and is an active Boy Scout and the Jack and Jill of America. He also loves traveling and visiting major zoos. Blaze is the youngest son of Theron and Renea Jameson. Blaze Jameson.
Good evening. I'd like to thank School Board Member Ms. Shelley Williams for giving me the honor of presenting tonight for tonight's inspirational moment. Thank you. Since it's Women's History Month, I want to celebrate the amazing women in the Richland 2 School District who inspire me to love learning and be true to myself and boldly take up space. I'm fortunate to have 6 credible teachers, Ms. Whitehead, Ms. Jenkins, Ms. Schweikert, Ms. Crawford, Ms. Williams, and Ms. Bolden. These are the 6 law teachers that I have every day from my middle school. Also, I'd like to recognize Ms. Brown for our 6th grade administrator who keeps everything running smoothly. Let's give a big round of applause to all these remarkable E.L. Wright women who make a difference every day. My journey began with a superstar teacher, Miss Tammy Frierson, at Pontiac Montessori, who guided me from pre-3 to kindergarten. When we started working on sight words, I only knew 2 out of the 100. With her help, I quickly learned the other 98. She didn't just teach me sight words, she inspired me to love to learn. And let's be honest, getting a 3-year-old to sit still and learn, that's a superpower. Please join me in celebrating Miss Tammy Frierson. A few years later, I had the privilege of learning with the GOAT, Miss Tiana Myers, at the Center for Inquiry from 4th to 5th grade. She led me through my impact project, which showed me how even small voices can make a big impact. My impact project focused on spreading joy and researched the importance of mental health in the Black community and learned about organizations like the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, which was founded by actress Taraji P. Henson. As a part of my project, I held a comedy show to spread joy and raise money for Big Homies, Little Homies, a mentoring nonprofit organization. This summer, I had the opportunity to meet Taraji P. Henson and impress her with my project. The money I raised was used to send a Big Homie, Little Homie to college summer camps, and Miss Myers was there to cheer me on every step of the way. Miss Myers is my favorite teacher, but don't tell the other teachers. Please join me in celebrating Miss Tiana Myers. And I can't forget Miss Pilot, who our morning PAC News team energized and motivated. As a co-anchor, I kick things off with a daily joke, so I'll leave you with this one. Hey, Miss Shelley.
Yes, please.
How do you get straight A's?
I don't know.
With a ruler. Let's give another round of applause to these incredible women who make history every day in the lives of students like me. Thank you. Now will you please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Blaze. That was awesome. Now we will move to item 6.1, consent agenda. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the consent agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Washington?
I move to approve the consent agenda for the March 11, 2025 regular board meeting.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington and seconded by Mrs. Nash. Is there any discussion? Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. While we're waiting for the consent agenda, I do have a question, if someone can answer that for me. Am I thought Ms. Washington was, oh, okay. For the consent agenda for the local board approved courses, it says CH Athletic Sports Coaches Choice for high school. Can someone explain that? For the local courses for the high school, the coach's choice, does that vary depending on the high school, and how do they determine what that would be? Who can answer that? Oh, okay, Mrs. Atkinson, okay. Oh, never mind. Because I had already called for the vote, and now it's been taken. Okay, I thought we were still waiting. Disregard, Ms. Atkinson? Were you able to vote? Okay. Okay, so disregard that. The vote is 7 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. I'll get that on the board doc. We will now move to item 7.1, public participation. We do have one person who has actually signed up. Before we begin, I'd like to read something. You will be given 3 minutes to address the board. To assist with timing, the lights on the table in front of me will change colors from green to yellow to red. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow. When the time is up, the light will turn red, and you will hear the tone indicating your time to speak has expired. Before we begin, I will remind you that our meetings are streamed live and recorded. According to policy BEDH, comments from the public should not include gossip, defamatory words, or abusive and vulgar language. The policy also prohibits in public session any expression of personal complaints about individual school personnel or any other person connected with the school system. Specific student or personnel issues should be handled through the appropriate procedure as indicated in the district policy. Questions asked during public participation will be referred to a staff member for response at a later time. With that being said, we do have Alton Raven.
Good evening. I'm here to speak about the 100th anniversary of Dennisville High School. I'm not sure if any of you or anybody in the room remember or have ever heard of Dennisville High School, but it opened back in 1927 on February 14th. It started from a new district when, back in the summer of 1926, there was a public vote to determine whether two districts would be joined. District 17, which was a school Midway, which was off of Percival Road, and the school, Dent School and Jackson Creek School, which were, one was on, Dent was on Two Notch Road and Jackson Creek was on Raven Road. They voted, the public voted, and they decided to merge the schools. And actually, there was 0 votes against the merger. So that's unusual. So they merged, they formed a new district called Park 17, and that became later Richland School District 2. Well, when they decided on that, they also formed a new board. And the members on that board, some of you may be related, who knows? But they were John W. Conder, he was chairman, Dr. Ernest Cooper, John Keels, J.W. Dennis, C.J. Dennis, and J.D. Terry. Those were the new board members. They decided on naming the new school Dennisville Consolidated School. It was located on property that was donated by the Dent family on what then was Boyden Arbor Road, which is now Decker Boulevard. And the rear of the school would be on Dennisville Road, which is now North Trenham Road. That school was there until 1970, when Spring Valley High School was built, of course, and they closed it and made it into a junior high, and then later on a middle school, Denton Middle School. But on those grounds, for 100 years, there's been a school. And there should, and I don't know what type of event, but there should be some type of event to recognize what's been on that ground for the last 100 years and what started it, and to recognize the living students that went to that school. There are hundreds are still in this area that should be recognized, and I hope that you will look into that and look at having an event at some time in 2026 or 2027. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We will now move to item 8.0, voting on executive session items. 8.1, contractual matter regarding the purchase of property. May I please have a motion on the contractual matter regarding the purchase of property?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Washington.
I move that we authorize the superintendent to proceed with the property transactions discussed in executive session to purchase 6.51 acres shown as a portion of Richland County TMS 23000-03-06 from JNW Investments 1 LLC, with all documents being made available to the public once the transactions have been completed.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington and seconded by Mr. Dennis. Is there any discussion? Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. The vote is 7 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We'll now move to item 8.2, student admission request into the district's adult education program. May I please have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Dennis.
I move to approve the student admission request into the district's adult education program for student number 1.
The motion has been made by Mr. Dennis. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mr. Dennis and seconded by Mrs. Nash. Is there any discussion? Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. The vote is 7 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We will now move to item 8.3, employment recommendation and certified releases. May I please have a motion regarding employment recommendations and certified releases?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Nash?
I move to approve the employment recommendations and certified releases as presented.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Nash. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Nash and seconded by Mrs. Porter. Is there any discussion? Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. The vote is 7 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We will now move to item 9.0, new business action requested. Item 9.1, approval of the budget transfer. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the budget transfer?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Nash?
I move to approve the request for the budget transfer as presented.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Nash. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Nash and seconded by Mrs. Williams. Is there any discussion? Board members, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. The motion is 7 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We will now move to item 10.0, new business, no action requested. 10.1, proposal of the 2026-2027 academic calendar. I will now turn it over to Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to introduce Dr. Marshalyn Franklin, our Deputy Superintendent, to present to the board the proposed calendar.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Madam Chair, members of the board, it is my honor to present to the board a proposed calendar for the, proposed academic calendar for the 2026-27 school year, as well as how the committee arrived at the calendar that you will see tonight. I would first like to acknowledge the calendar committee. So each year we assemble a calendar committee that consists of student, parent, and employee representatives. The employee representatives represent both our classified employees and our certified employees. And tonight I'm joined by Sandra Baker at the microphone, one of our classified representatives. And in the audience, if you will stand, I have Ms. Ashley Douglas, one of our parent representatives, Mr. Ethan Kropp, one of our student representatives, he's student body president at Blythewood High School, and Dr. Anna Parrish, one of our certified representatives on the committee. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work. So here's how we arrived at the calendar that you will be presented tonight. Our calendar committee members each were tasked to create a draft calendar for the 2026-27 school year. They were given some guidelines. So these are elements that were required to be represented in each of the calendars. They were also given some recommendations. These are elements that weren't required to be in the calendar, but are nice to have. Traditionally, these features have appeared in calendars in Richland School District 2, and so they would really be nice to have. And then they were given some considerations for their calendars. These are elements of the calendar, again, that are not required, but if you could fit it in because it would be very well received by our employees and parents. And Ms. Baker's going to share with you the calendar development process. Okay.
Thank you. Committee members created 9 draft calendars and submitted them to district administration. The district leaders vetted the draft calendars, verifying that they met the established criteria. Committee members provided feedback on each of the draft calendars, and committee members had the opportunity to refine their calendars. The committee carefully reviewed the 9 calendars and selected 4 calendars to move forward in the process.
And I will note that the third step that you see on the screen is something new that we did this year, and that came at the recommendation of a parent representative who served on the committee last year. That our first in-person meeting be a meeting where people just share their calendars, get feedback from the committee, and then they have an opportunity to refine those calendars and then bring them back.
The 4 draft calendars were shared with partner groups for feedback, and that was the CSAC, the PAC, the TF, principals, and the superintendent's cabinet.
And the alphabet soup would be our classified staff advisory council, our parent advisory council, the teacher forum, principals, and the superintendent's cabinet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The committee reviewed the feedback from partner groups, made adjustments to the calendars, and chose 3 calendars to move forward in the process. Those 3 calendars were shared with parents and employees via email, and then parents and employees voted on their preferred calendar.
All right, so of the 23,580 Richland 2 family members who received the survey, of course, that includes each household as well as each employee, 4,932 of them submitted a response. Please note that the percentages listed on the screen are the responders who fall into each designated group. So, for example, of the 4,932 people that responded to the calendar survey, 32.6 of them were employees, 48.7 were parents, and 18.7 were both parents and employees. So we got some interesting results. So if you would, follow along with me on that employee line. So we had 499 employees that chose option calendar A, 533 that chose calendar option B, and 578 that chose C. We circled the 578 because that was the most preferred calendar among employees. So if you would scan your eyes and follow that same pattern for parents and then for employees that are also parents. So the preferred calendar for employees was C, the preferred calendar for parents was A, and the preferred calendar for people who are parents and employees, they have that dual role, was C. However, that bottom row on the table has the total for each calendar. And you will notice that the overall preferred calendar was calendar B, which wasn't the preferred calendar of either of those groups. Don't ask me how that happened, but it happened. And the difference between the total number of votes on each calendar is marginal. So that could mean a few things. It could mean that this was just a phenomenal committee and they created calendars that was just appealing to everybody. It could mean that there weren't a whole lot of differences between a few of the calendars, but it is our tradition that we present to the board the calendar that received the highest number of votes, and that is calendar B. Calendar B was created by Ms. Sandra Baker, so she's going to give you some information about the features of the calendar that she created as a member of the committee.
All right. When I set out to create the perfect school year calendar, I sought input from my director, Mr. Alan Wolf, and our counselor, Ms. Natasha Vaughn. As I'm not an academic person, I wanted to kind of find out what their input would be. So we worked together to try to include some sort of break for teachers each month, as well as a much-needed break in October. And one of my big points was to have the entire week of Thanksgiving off and to maximize the summer break for teachers, staff, and students. That is a challenge with all the criteria and suggestions, as you have seen within the process. In my calendar, teachers would return to work on July 27th, which is a Monday, and have that entire week for preparation, in-services, and professional development. Secondary to suggestions, I found a way to have a much-needed 4-day weekend in October after having only a 1-day break in September with Labor Day. With my calendar, I chose to couple a workday on the first Monday in November before a holiday for a nice break. I added a workday after winter break to help us all get back in the swing of things before the students returned. Then we have a 2-day break in February and a long weekend at the first part of March, which can also be used as weather makeup days if needed. Spring break begins with a Good Friday workday on March 26th and ends with a workday. We have a 4-day weekend at the end of April, beginning of May, and then finally our last day of school is Thursday, May 27th. There was a teacher workday on that Friday, the 28th, and we are out before the May 31st holiday so families can enjoy that weekend. The overall goal was to have some type of break during each month to give our teachers and students time for rest and rejuvenation. I believe this calendar optimizes our academic requirements as well as holidays and breaks for faculty and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this challenging process.
Thank you. Dr. Moore, that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Franklin and Ms. Baker. Board, I will let you know that Calendar B was not my choice, but because the numbers indicate that it had the most votes in accordance with our policy, and no, I had zero influence on the calendar, we will now open it up for discussion.
Board members, any discussion? Ms. Porter?
Thank you. I too did not choose Calendar B as a parent. I will say something that sticks out and I'd like for everyone to look at is the first week of school. That starts on a Monday. We haven't had that happen in a long time. I can tell you from an educator's perspective, no one likes to start on a Monday after a summer vacation. And you likely like to start in the middle of the week so that you can iron out some kinks if something doesn't go exactly right. That middle of the week is prime, preferably a Wednesday or a Thursday start date. So that's the one that stuck out to me. And then also that whole week in July being work days, that last week in July, if you're planning vacations, that's a tough one to swallow as well. And then second, we have Ethan here, and the one group that wasn't highlighted as far as votes was students, and I thought it would be a great idea to hear from Ethan and what he thinks about the calendar. Sorry, I called you out there.
It's fine. I just told Ms. Ellis, actually, I said, it's nice just to come and enjoy the board meeting and not have to speak, but it's fine, it's fine. I would actually like to highlight out Ms. Ellis. Me and her, we worked extensively on this process, and Calendar B was not the one that I chose or created as well. But at the end of the day, like Dr. Moore said, sometimes you have to roll with the votes, and that's how they lied out this time. I actually originally was a proponent of a calendar that provided more extended breaks that also started at the middle of the week. So this may also not be popular, but our calendar also did start on July 31st, which is typically before, but that's also in the middle of the week before school as well. It also highlighted a week-long break in October. We felt that this would be a great time to provide content recovery and things like that for students as well, to kind of ease them back in. It also provided, like this one does, an extended break in February as well. But that's besides the point at the end of the day. For me personally as a student, I didn't necessarily, one of the things that I kind of struggled with was the Monday start to school. I feel like that's a very hard thing, not only for students, but also educators as well, to be able to get back into the groove of things. But other than that, I mean, I really don't have any grasp with the calendar. We finished before Memorial Day, which is also good as well. But that's kind of just was my points throughout the whole process. So thank you.
Board members, any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Dennis.
You know, I looked at all these calendars, and I got it as a parent. I didn't participate in the survey because I figured I was going to be sitting here anyway doing this. So, yeah, I know. But when I looked at these calendars, you know, there's a lot of camps and events that happen in the summer months, and I think every time that we try to start sooner and sooner, that takes things away from a lot of students that choose. And it's not just when I look at it from the sports. There's a lot of other things that go on, especially up in D.C. A lot of kids are going up there, and you know, they're doing a lot of things in July. And you know, when you bring in teachers and staff back into school that whole week of July, it's hard for me to stomach. And knowing that we're a heavy military community, the earlier we start, it actually hurts military families and their PCS. PCS is permanent change of station for non-military folks. So, you know, I hear a lot from the military families say, hey, that hurts us when we start sooner, you know, with a heavy military presence here. So, you know, I definitely will not be supporting Calendar B. I think Calendar C would have been the better option when you look at it for everything. That's just how I feel about it.
May I add some context about the starting in July? For many years, we heard from everybody, teachers, parents, students, that it was just awful to not end the first semester before winter break. And so probably about 3 years ago, we made a commitment to ending first semester before winter break, largely in the interest of military families who would be relocating during winter break. And so if we count the days back from winter break, in order to end the first semester before winter break, we really have to, the kids have to start at the very 1st of August, which means teachers start in July. But that's the rationale behind the late July start. It's just a matter of trying to end the first semester, to get in 90 school days before winter break.
And additionally, Mr. Dennis, it also allows us to give our semester exams prior to winter break. And all of the high school students prefer that than to come back and have to take it in January.
Okay, and again, typically, we would only share with the board the calendar that received the highest number of votes, but with this kind of outcome this year, we felt it was important that you had all 3 of the options, because the work was the work of the calendar committee, but of course the decision is the decision of the board. And so you have the results of the votes, and you have the other 2 calendar options, calendar A and C, because the decision is yours. It is our recommendation, though, that we go with the calendar that received the highest number of votes. But do take under consideration how closely the vote count was.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Trapp.
No, I wanted to make sure all 3 of these calendars, I had assumed, finish us up the first semester before.
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted to double check on that.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Dr. Franklin and the committee, for your hard work and dedication to getting the calendar to us. Thank you so much. We will now move to item We will now move to item 10.2, Human Resources Report, Upbeat Engagement Survey. I will now turn it over to Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to introduce Dr. Franklin Foster, our Senior Chief of Human Resources, to present to the board. Thank you, Dr. Foster.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Good evening, board members. I'm Dr. Scott and Ms. Porter and all board members. Good evening. Tonight, I am here to introduce our Upbeat team that is working with us on implementation for the Upbeat survey. We have 3 members of our team that we started working with in December. It's been a great venture so far. And if you recall, our overall purpose for engaging with a company to work and listen and understand our teacher engagement is to hopefully improve teacher retention and teacher working conditions. And the data that we received from the survey is currently being used at the schools to do that, as well as processes here at the district office to address some of those as well. So we have 3 members of our team here. I have Kylie is, of course, on the screen, ready to go, and she'll introduce her team, Andrew and Lukman as well. And we'll be here to answer questions afterwards. Kylie, you ready?
Great, we'll go ahead and get
All right.
started. Okay, while Andrew is pulling that up, we will just kick off with introductions. I'm Kylie Shapiro-Davis. I am the COO at Upbeat, and a large portion of my role is to make sure that all of our partners have a really good experience working with Upbeat. Prior to this, I worked in schools. I was a teacher. I taught middle school and elementary school in several different cities and had the opportunity to be on school leadership teams, and that's what drew me to the Upbeat's work. I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Andrew Saturno. I'm the program manager for you all. And my main role is just to help you all with survey implementation and results analysis. Prior to being at Upbeat, I spent nearly a decade in Chicago Public Schools as a assistant principal and special education teacher.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lukman Abdurrahman. I apologize in advance. I'm getting over a cold, so my throat is a little froggy, so forgive me. I am the head of leadership at Upbeat, which means I support our amazing coaching team, which is composed of principals, superintendents, former HR staff, just a wonderful team of individuals who are tasked with supporting our districts and our principals. And before Upbeat, I worked as a teacher for high school and middle school math and science, coach and principal for about 10 years in turnaround schools in Atlanta, Georgia. Very nice to meet you all.
So what we'll do today is we'll do a quick overview of some of of Upbeat and then also some of the highlights of the survey, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what happens in the principal consultations. So at Upbeat, we have research-based surveys. We partner with a team of professors who have identified the key areas that impact teacher and employee retention. They've taken those, they've turned those into lit reviews, and they've also turned them into our surveys. We then partner that, as Lukman was saying, he's head of our leadership team, our leadership coaching team. We partner that with coaching for both the district level and principals. And we've seen this work. So this is just an example of improved retention rates that we've seen in our partnership with Fairfield County. But overall, this research-backed surveys coupled with the coaching, we have seen this lead to improved satisfaction and retention.
So this is an overview of the partnership so far. We started the survey in December, and then through January, through the beginning of February, we're kind of sharing back those results from the survey, both kind of at the central office level, and then also with one-on-one consults with your principals and Lukman and other leadership coaches. The main focus of the survey, as named by you all when we were implementing the survey, was to have a greater than or equal to 70% teacher participation, and also that all principals would share the results back with their staff following their one-on-one consult with an Upbeat leadership coach by the end of February. As to the participation rate, the teachers had 1,644 completions, which was an 86% completion rate. That's 3% above our kind of global average and district average across our partners. And then your non-instructional staff had 193 completions, an 87% completion rate, which is about 18 percentage points, above our Upbeat average. I'll pass it over to Lukman to talk about areas of strength.
Thank you, Andrew. So we want to highlight a couple of areas of strength and potential areas of focus from the data that we got for Richland 2. So you can see the categories that we identified, the positivity percentage for each full category, and an example of a question for that category and the percentage there as well. I know you have access to the slides, so I won't go through every point, but we wanted to acknowledge the district's relative strength and perception for equal opportunities, instructional leadership, and belonging and well-being. You can see for equal opportunities, it's 94%, which is 1% higher than our global cluster. Instructional leadership is 92, which is 2% above our global cluster average. And belonging and well-being, which is a very critical category for retention and engagement. 87% positivity, which is also 1% above the global average. Going on to the areas of focus or areas of opportunity, you see we've highlighted the categories of career and compensation, professional development, and teacher voice and leadership. As you see, the category for career and compensation is 49% positivity, and you see the question that was selected there. But just for context, it is 6% lower than our global cluster across the country, all teachers in the country that we surveyed, and 7% lower than the South Carolina statewide cluster. So we also have a cluster of all the districts we work with in South Carolina. So for context, that 49% is 7% lower than that state average. Professional development is 75% positive, which is equal with the global average, but it is 6% lower than the South Carolina cluster. And I do want to make a point that the perception of district-provided professional development was a little lower than the perception of school-based professional development. And lastly, teacher voice was 80% positive, which was 1% above the global average, but 5 percentage points lower than the South Carolina cluster.
One other category we wanted to quickly drill down into is this category around future commitment. And these two questions that you're seeing here are really talking about whether teachers and staff can see themselves working in their school for the next year and whether they would recommend their school as a place to work for a friend. And for both of those, these are slightly below the global cluster average and the South Carolina cluster average for teachers and a little for mostly for non-instructional staff as well. Those are just some markers there.
So I wanted to briefly give you a high-level overview of a principal consult and how it's structured. So we start by ensuring that the principal can navigate the platform. So after we have the conversation, they feel fully comfortable giving a detailed overview to their staff, going into the data with their leadership team, and really making that data actionable. Then we dig into the actual data and discuss areas of strength for that school. And we correlate what actions that the principal took in order to achieve those results. And then we talk about areas of focus and what specific action steps that the principal wants to undertake between now and the next time they give a survey in order to change those specific areas of focus. So as you can see, all but one Richland 2 principal had their consult with their coach, with that one individual was on medical leave at the time. And here is a brief example to show how we capture those notes when we have the facilitating the reflection with those principals and coming up with strong strategic action steps. So in this case, this principal is focused on work-life balance because as you can see in the data on the bottom, their positivity rate in blue was 15 percentage points lower than the Richland 2 average. So it was a focus area and the coach was supporting the principal to make sure they leverage their strengths of instructional leadership and trust to really start a big conversation with staff about how can they make more efficiencies in their lesson planning process to buy some time back for their teachers so they can invest in their personal well-being.
The last piece that we have here in this last minute we have with you all is just sharing some feedback that we've seen from principals so far. So we send a survey out to principals after they've had an opportunity to meet with their Upbeat leadership coach. Either Luke Mon or Dr. Amanda Aiken is the other coach that works with us on this particular partnership. And you'll see here that we've gotten really, really strong feedback from principals around how the data helps them accomplish their goals, that the reports were high quality, that Upbeat was responsive to their questions, and that their 95% of principals said that their consult was either very or extremely helpful. I think there was maybe one that was somewhat helpful there. So you can just see some comments as well around the launch of this pilot and some feedback that we're seeing from the principals. So really excited to share that information as well. I think we're exactly at 8 minutes here, but we will move to the next slide, which is just opening up for comments and questions here.
Dr. Scott, before you get started, I want to get one point of clarification from Callie. Can you do a quick comparison? You talked about the global cluster and you talked about the South Carolina cluster. Just so that they can understand with the South Carolina cluster, what are some of the districts that you work with that make up that cluster? Because you did talk about the compensation piece, and then you talked about the teacher commitment, and I know that you said we were lower in those areas. I just want them to kind of see the comparison to some of the districts outside of, Fairfield is close to us, but it's not really a comparable district because of the size. So if you would just share that with us, I think that'd be a key point.
We work with Greenville County Schools, Beaufort County Schools. I'm just trying to think of ones off the top of my head. Fairfield's in there. We can send you all a full breakdown of all the South Carolina. Those are the ones that are coming to mind, top of mind. Andrew, I don't know if you have any more that you would jump in and add on there.
Work with Allendale County Schools as well.
What was that, Andrew?
Allendale County Schools, which is a much smaller district.
Okay. But I wanted you to really talk about Greenville and Beaufort because those are the two districts that we used as our test to say that we really wanted to be a part of this, because Greenville has saw huge increases in their teacher retention through using Upbeat, as well as Beaufort County. So that's what I
Fort
wanted to make
Mill's
that
another
point.
like good sizable district
Yes.
in that cluster as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Lauren's kind of, I'm just, now I'm looking at our whole list, but, yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. Board members, as we prepare to open up for comments and questions, I first want to say thank you to all of our teachers that participated. Our participation rate, as you saw, was phenomenal, and it was much, much higher. We greatly appreciate that input. This process of using Upbeat came out of the work that we did last year with the South Carolina Workforce survey and the results that we received from that. Remember, last year we started at the district level to putting, as a part of the process, working with them. And then this year we'll be surveying at the school level, putting our school committees in. And as a part of that, we looked for a tool in which that we could equip and provide our principals with additional support around recruitment and retention, because that came directly out of the survey, the working conditions survey. And so each school has a working condition committee, and now with their Upbeat results, they are going and working. I actually visited, when I visited one of the schools, the principal was in with the 7th grade group doing the Upbeat survey and talking with them about strategies and adjustments that they could make as a team, not led by just administration, but the team coming together to talk about how we can improve the culture and climate of the school. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Board members, are there any questions? Mrs. Washington?
Thank you, Dr. Scott. So I do have a question for Dr. Moore. Knowing all of this data, just for clarification, you said the working conditions, are you talking about the survey from SC Teacher? Okay, so that that working conditions data, and we're drilling it down to the school. So now what are our next steps, and how are we going to use all of this information to inform our leadership practices from the top down?
So the next steps is we are taking that information, and as Kelly said, they've met with every principal except for our one principal that's on medical leave. Then the principal takes that information back to the faculty, and together they are working on whatever the areas are for that particular school to meet the needs of that school, because every school is different and has different needs. And so when we do that, what it does is now teachers, staff in that building see that they have been seen, heard, and valued, because they are part of the solution, not a top-down driven solution. Dr. Foster, would you like to add something?
No, ma'am, I think you summarized it perfectly.
Board members, any other questions? I would just say, did you have one?
I didn't have a question, but I had something to say about it.
Okay, go ahead. Mr.
I'm glad to see that we beat the average participation rate in that, and the areas of strengths that we've seen in this presentation is really good for our district. The opportunity, no surprise there, we got the career and compensation, professional development, and the teacher voice and leadership. I mean, that comes in part in corporations. That's along the same line. The key successful leaders is the servant style of leadership, and I think that's what this is coming as, letting the teachers and staff work with the principals and becoming a servant style leader, and I think that would be better for our district. Our teachers are a huge resource in making this district better, so I'm glad we're taking this initiative and going that way. And I would really like to see the 79% of teachers and 77% of the staff. I would rather that be in the 90s to get people to work here. I think that would help with our retention. We just need to, and come along with that, I think if we push for that better work-life balance, I think that will help us moving on. And I think we have the grounds to do that right here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. You basically said what I was going to say, Mr. Dennis. So with that, exactly. So with that, thank you so much. I really appreciate the presentation. That was awesome.
Thank you so much, team.
Okay, we will now move to item 10.3, legislative event And I will turn that over to Mrs. Porter and Mr. Trapp. I'm not sure who's presenting.
Mr. Trapp, would you like for me to? Yes.
Mrs. Porter, we'll turn it over to you.
Yes, so I would say about a month ago, our chair reached out to Mr. Trapp and myself and suggested that we create an opportunity for us to communicate with our legislators and our delegation. And so Mr. Trapp and I came together and had a discussion about the different opportunities we could possibly use. And I drafted up 3 different options, not to say that we could do one or the other or not all 3 or whatever it may be, but more so for us to have an opportunity for discussion. And I requested that it be a no action item so that we could hear the voices of our colleagues and then draft something based on what we hear today for a vote. And so option A is a full legislative event. This has been brought up in the past before, but we wanted to bring it to the board ahead of time and also to see if it was something that you wanted to budget for because it would cost and also it would utilize time and efforts from the staff. So the format would be a comprehensive event with Richland 2 update, Q&A, an area visit, performing arts tour, and lunch with those that attend. The focus would be an in-depth engagement and relationship building with those that attend, and the timeline would be a half-day event during the summer with local delegation and county reps. Option B would be at R2I2, and the format would be a visit with refreshments, roundtable discussions, highlighting celebrations and challenges of Richland 2, and a performing arts or class tours within R2I2. The focus would be to highlight specific programs and facilities. The timeline would be an hour and a half event, and there's a proposed date, as our chair was specific to having something in the month of April. And so that would be Thursday, April 10th, which was thrown out there, definitely subject to change based on the availability of those invited, from 1 to 2:30. Option C would be individual outreach. This is something from a number of discussions we had. Mr. Trapp and I called different individuals, and one that came out was that R2 staff provide a 1-page overview of celebrations and concerns for Richland 2, and board members schedule individual meetings with delegations or those that they know and feel comfortable with to have conversations about our celebrations and challenges. We know that different opportunities present themselves within county and legislators, and they think about things that may be available in the community that they can contribute to, and we just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to share the needs of Richland School District 2. So with that, I open the floor for any of you to share your feedback so that Mr. Trapp and I can do some work together and bring this back to you.
Board members, any discussion? Mrs. Williams?
Madam Chair and the board, my concern, while I would love to have it as soon as possible, because it's very important that we engage with our legislators, especially since it's budget time for them, and maybe they can put some more in the budget for us. But I do know the importance of that. But because we have to be responsible for our budget in our district currently, what are ways in which we're going to be able to support this event? Because it's not built into our budget at this moment, but it is, or will it come out of our board budget through that? I just don't want to have another line item that will add additional expenses at this moment since we didn't build it into the year.
That's a great question, Ms. Williams. And actually, if we had anything like this, it would come out of the school board budget, which we have for that. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just
Mrs.
have
Nash?
more, mine's more of a comment. I think, like, for me, I think anything that's like, just if you've ever like sat down or talked with any of our legislators, there's not really a sit down. It's more like a passerby. And so I don't see anybody, giving 5 hours. I don't even see myself. I mean, like, it's just between all of us and what we do here and what they do, they don't have 5 hours. But I could see where like like a 1.5 hour, I mean, even that, I can see where some people might, leave within an hour, but at least we have an opportunity to talk to them. And then if it is coming out of the board budget, we have some things that we talked about tonight that we would like to see happen, and one of those being the pilot program. So getting in, talking to them, and maybe they know some people that want to like donate a pilot program. I don't know, or to get involved or at least advocate for us in that. And so I am okay with with option B, but again, I just think 5 hours is a lot, and ideally I think a lot of people on the board, I would imagine, are doing option C anyway. That's part of what we do here, of being on the board. So for me, I would just be advocating for option B.
Board members, any other comments? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Dennis?
Yeah, when I looked at all these, I felt option A was a great idea, but I think it's too much time for them. And one of the things was, I think it just shouldn't be our local delegation. I think it needs to be across the state, inviting people over. And the reason why I say that, there's a lot of minds that we have to change to get funding. And I understand that that is a huge task to take in, but that's why I was leaning more towards option B when I look at things, because that's a 1.5 hour event. We can utilize that to talk with some of our legislators here and hopefully get some that are around our area as well. But I also agree with Mrs. Nash, option C, I'm already doing that because that's what we were elected to do. And I know many of y'all are doing that as well. So, knowing that it comes out of our budget that we've already allotted for, that makes me feel a little bit better. So we don't have to find as much here or there. But I would like to see something where we can try to talk to them in a way. And I do like option B the more I started thinking about it and looking at it.
Thank you. Board members? Well, I will just say something as well. Mrs. Porter and I actually had this conversation back in February. And the reason why we had the conversation is because 2 of our Richland 2 delegates actually reached out to me and stated that they just feel like Richland 2 don't do a great job like we used to do in the past of having relationships with them and inviting them over to be a part of Richland 2. So with that, they shared with me that they are not going to give more than an hour and a half because they just don't have that time, which many of us don't have that time. They also suggested that most of their committees and their meetings, Thursday is the best day for the majority of them to be a part of this. However, when I look at option B, that's the one that I would go with, but in the middle of the day at 1 o'clock in the general session, that's not happening. I think I shared with Mrs. Porter that if we consider this, then they were saying something along the line of 4 to 5:30 or 5 to 6:30. And then 2, we're just throwing out a date Thursday, April 10th, which I'm not even sure if that's possible because it probably would have been great, based on reaching out to them to see what day would work for them for April. I don't even know if April now will be an option. And then during the summer, local legislators, or even if they lived out of town, they are not coming back to Richland 2 or any other school district during the summer. They don't work during the summer. So I think if we want to get this done, we need to pick up the phone and call them to see if their calendar is available for April, which, I'm not sure if it is or not, but that's just something we'll have to go back to do. And 1 to 2 o'clock, many of my colleagues work. I think I'm probably the only one who's retired. So I'm not even sure if 1 to 2 will even work for them in their work schedule. So I think we need to be a little more flexible and do something maybe with that time, that 1.5, because that's good, but consider doing something after work hours for them. So that's my take on it. Thank you. Mrs. Washington?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So all of these options for me are great. I do like the idea of doing a full legislative event, but in terms of planning and budget, that is something that we would have to think about. I think for efficiency purposes and thinking about some of those challenges that we have that may not require recurring funds, something that's simple or easy that we can, not simple and easy, let me not say that, but something that is, that they can easily be able to speak on because we see the benefits of it for our school district. Option B would be a better focus, again, for efficiency purposes, because I don't know their schedules, and then I don't know how much money and time we would have to spend. Me, I love the idea because I heard it from a couple of other board members across the state at different school districts where they talked about how they dined with their their delegation, and they were able to sit down. They did take school tours, and they were able to connect with their community. But I think, and for the sake of time and for the sake of just some of those things that we heard this evening, some things that we can lay down on the table for them to even consider if it's not something that they can do this year, that we've gotten ahead of the game for next year. Because when we talk about compensation, I even messaged a legislator today and was like, hey, do you guys even consider giving raises for classified? Because that has to come out of your district's budget, and we want to make sure that everybody's compensated across the board. So just even having some of those conversations around challenges, things that they can start talking about and taking back, I would go with option B, simply because that would give us more efficiency and a quicker turnaround. And then I still think that we can do something with an option A as we continue to build those relationships with them and take them on a bus tour or take them to one of our schools and allow them to see the differences. But for the sake of time and some of the challenges that were presented during the budget session, I would say let's go with option B. That's just my take on it.
Madam Chair.
Who said that? Ms. Williams?
Yes, and to further talk about option B, I know that we have our board workshop on the 10th. And so I'm not sure, because if we're already meeting and it's in our budget because we're meeting, then maybe bringing the time a little later instead of 1 to 2:30 to having it later in the evening, since we're extending our board workshop that day into the evening, and have them join us in a portion of our board workshop to do that meet and greet.
That would have been a great idea probably a couple weeks ago.
Because we've already
planned it. That would have been awesome.
Okay.
But we've already planned that, so there's no room in the schedule for the 10th. But had we known earlier, that would have been great to have slipped that right in.
Madam Chair.
Option for next time, though, when we have a board workshop. Mrs. Nash?
I just had one thought, again, about option A. They may spend time, but they're not spending 5 hours. I mean, I will say one idea that maybe to think about is, I know that there are senators and, our representatives, legislative delegates who do tours around their district. And perhaps, we invite them to, when they do tours on their district, that we all are able to be a part of that. Because they're not a long time. I mean, Dr. Moore, you can speak to this. I've been to one because with Joe Wilson and Representative Joe Wilson, and, that was fun. It was engaging. You guys did a really wonderful job of, treating us to cinnamon rolls. I mean, it was wonderful. And so maybe that's a way, because you do get to talk. You do get to have a sit down with them, the people that work with them. And so maybe there's a way that we can do that, but 5 hours is not going to happen for anybody. They get on that bus and, they're touring everywhere. It's just not something that's doable.
Okay, Mrs. Porter wants to close out, so I'll pass it over to Mrs. Porter.
I just want to say thank you all for contributing to the conversation. And what I like to restate things that I hear. So I hear that majority of us like something with the style of option B. Also that you are fine with me reaching out to you all to designate some people to call to get a date. No, you sure? I feel like we are such a great team. So it sounds like we're going to do some teamwork. Oh, yeah, that's right. In reaching out to our delegation. And then I also heard that a later time in the evening, like of a dinner type time, would be best, like a 5 to 6:30 in Thursday. And also, that would require us to have some things from our staff, which would be some discussion points of celebrations and challenges and non-recurring fund items that we can also be able to speak to in that event. So thank you for that, and I will call you, Mr. Trapp, and we'll get together and present something to the board as soon as possible.
And Madam Chair, can I just add
Absolutely,
one
Mr.
thing?
Trapp.
I
Yes.
think I think we should get into a certain mindset, if we're not already in it, to where this is something that we do by default. In other words, we invite, I can think of a lot of events we've had where we probably didn't invite a lot of our legislators and stuff. There would have been great opportunities for them to come out and see the things we're doing. You know, we had the grand opening of the Performing Arts Center stuff, and I don't know that we did a good job of inviting people to things like that. So I think we need to get into a mindset that we need to make them part of our team. And so as we move forward, when we know there are events coming up, we need to ask ourselves, you know, is this something that'd be good to invite these representatives to?
Dr. Moore?
Madam Chair, we do, Mr. Trapp, invite them, like to the Performing Arts Center. We invite them to the State of the District event, and we include them in pretty much all of our outside events. Some of our newer local delegation have attended events, but we are definitely open to including more opportunities for them, because building a strong partnership, as our chair and Ms. Porter have said, it's critical to our district. So we are excited about those opportunities.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mrs.
Oh,
Nash?
I was going to say, I think Joe was talking about the board. I think he was talking about us, Dr. Moore. We know you do.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to keep moving because it's still daylight out, and hopefully we'll get out by, to see the daylight. So let's move to item 11.0, agenda items for next meeting. Dr. Moore?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not yet, Ms. Washington, not yet. Close. So our next regularly scheduled board meeting is March 25th, 2025. At that meeting, once again, we will have public input sessions on the 2025-2026 budget that will begin at 5 p.m., followed by the call to order at 5:30 p.m., followed by the approval of the agenda. Once the agenda has been approved, we will release to executive session. Executive session will include receipt of legal advice, our quarterly litigation update, student appeals, student admission request into the district's adult education program, employment recommendations, and certified releases. We will resume public session at 6:30 p.m. We will then have our inspirational moment and Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the consent agenda, which will include approval of the consent agenda, approval of minutes from previous meeting, and classified employment releases and in-district transfers. Public participation will follow the consent agenda, and then we will have special recognitions. We have a board recognition and student recognitions. Next, we will move to voting on executive session items, which would include student appeals, student admission requests into the district's adult education program, employment recommendations and certified releases, and as needed for items discussed in executive session. We will then move to unfinished business action requested, voting on the 2026-2027 academic calendar. There will then move to new business, no action. The board will receive an academic update. We will then move to reviewing the draft agenda for the April 8th, 2025 regularly scheduled board meeting, followed by our if needed items of public participation, executive session, voting on executive session items, and conclude with board and superintendent comments.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Board members, are there any revisions or additions you would like to see to a future agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to item 15.0, Board and Superintendent Comments. We will now start with Mr. Dennis.
Going first. All right, so I wanted to thank Blaze for coming in and doing an inspirational moment. I thought that was, I like that. That was fun. But I also wanted to congratulate the Blythewood girls basketball team. They brought home the 5A state championship. I got to go to that. It was great to see them bring it home to Richland too. I also wanted to congratulate Dent Middle School for finishing first in the Quiz Whiz, and Kelly Mill for finishing second, and Blythewood Middle for finishing third. I was here all day Friday and all day Saturday, so I left Friday to go to all the basketball games after sitting here all day. I also wanted to thank and congratulate Ridgeview and Blythewood, because it came down to them two for the 5A state championship as well. So we knew we were bringing the boys championship to Richland too. And Ridgeview ended up beating Blythewood, and but Blythewood come in second, so we brought those two trophies here. And Ridgeview also invited me over to their little celebration, which I thought was really great. They had some community members and all that to see all their players and all their cheerleaders come in with the trophy and gave them their medals and all that. And I didn't leave there till 1 a.m. and then came back the next morning up here at 8 for Quiz Whiz. So, also, at San Lamper Elementary, I got to go be part of the Black History celebration. And I want to say Mr. Johnson plays the saxophone there. And they talked about how music inspires and how that goes along with Black history. But to watch somebody get up on stage and play the saxophone and make every kid that's squirming and talking in elementary school stop and mouth drop and watch him for the 5 to 6 minutes he was playing, that was truly inspirational. And how they talked about the gospel and pop and hip hop and soul and all that, how that goes into it, I thought it was really unique and it was great. And Summit Middle School is also doing great things. I got to go visit them for the robotics items that they're doing. And, they're using robotics not just to learn about robotics. They're learning about history, math. They use all that and encompass it together. And I think that's a really good thing. And they're even using robotics to do ELA learning, which is quite interesting to me with that. North Springs is also doing some great things that I got to go see. I got to go see the aquaponics, how they're feeding fish, and those fish are taking helping purify the water and growing plants, and what they're doing with those plants, they're giving them to people in need that needs food. I think that is just something great that is highlighting in our district that our district's doing. And it's not it's what the kids are doing. That's what's so amazing to me. I want to thank everybody for coming out for budget season. Remember, it is budget season, so please come speak at the public budget sessions. Spring sports is ramping up, so all community members that hear me, please go out and support your local community schools. That's what it's about. It's about being a community and coming together, and sports is one of the ways you can do that. And also there's other events, not just sports. Our elementary schools and middle schools, they're going to be starting their spring plays, so community members, please come out and support your local schools with that. And I just want to say, remember, community is key, and we're all in this together to help our students grow and become a wonderful member of society and help make America one of the greatest countries in the world. Our students are the next teachers, nurses, doctors, businessmen, plumbers, electricians, and let's give them everything that they deserve. That's all I got.
Mrs. Washington.
So I want to say thank you to each of the community members who came out to our public hearing. Your voice matters, and I was so glad to hear some of the different staff members and employees and people who support our schools. Thank you all for coming out. Echoing what Gary just said, congratulations to Ridgeview and to Blythewood girls basketball teams. Blaze, you shared something that was amazing and just a great reminder that small voices can have a huge impact. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Alton, because I love history. And I am always just intrigued about how Richland 2 came about and, history, good or bad, whether we like it or not. It's just always, I'm always amazed at these great stories of these small beginnings and looking at how grand we are now. And just to hear, and I read an article about Mr. Alton in the Columbia Star. So I just want to thank you for sharing and being instrumental in collecting the history of Richland 2. Thank you to Dr. Moore and the district administration. It is budget season. I promise I won't get on your nerves this year. But you have answered some great questions and sharing just where we're headed. And I also want to say thank you for answering the question about employee wellness, because y'all know that amazing social media. And I like to try to combat things when I see it. And somebody shared that, something didn't happen in a district, and I was so proud to say, well, Richland 2 has this. And so thank you for sharing that information and always being responsive. Have a great evening, everyone. Get out and enjoy the weather. It's beautiful, and the countdown to spring break is on.
Thank you, Mrs. Washington. Ms. Williams? You're just sitting there looking at me, so it's like, why not?
It's fine. Charlie Chaplin once said, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." So thank you, Blaze, for helping bring the joy and laughter to our school board meeting tonight, which joy is one of our core values. As we celebrate Women's History Month, we recognize the countless women who have shaped our world through resilience, leadership, and innovation. I stand on the shoulders of those achievements who inspire us to continue fostering equity and opportunity for all. Let's honor their legacy by empowering their next generation of women to break barriers and make history. Last, I had the opportunity as well to attend several Richland 2 events, which connected and engaged the community. Amazing job to those who were responsible for hosting Two Sides, One Village, a community conversation between moms and dads. That, when I say it was amazing, it was to see parents from all backgrounds engaged. I wish that we could have more parents involved. They were vulnerable to have conversations, so the small group breakout sessions allowed for those conversations to be had. And they were powerful. So I hope that, I know it's something that we've done in our district before, but I hope that we can continue and maybe create partnerships where we can make it larger for other parents to be able to attend. And again, like everyone said, congratulations to Blythewood's girls basketball team and Ridgeview boys team for winning the state basketball championship last Friday. It was a wonderful spending time with my Richland 2 family as well as my personal family. This brought me a sense of belonging and joy, which continues to reinforce the district's core values. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Trapp?
Thank you. The work I do, or my occupation, I'm either really busy or I have nothing to do. And the last 2 weeks has been that really busy moment. And I have worked such long hours and such difficult jobs, and I haven't done anything. Mr. Dennis, you've done a lot, I've done nothing, okay? I know, right? And whatever you drank before we came in here, I want some, okay? I don't know, he was wide open. Anyway, but seriously, I just want to share a quick experience, and I promise there's a moral to it. But this past Saturday, I just decided, I had work to do, but I just decided I need a mental health day. So I spent a lot of my Saturday working on a vehicle I have. It's a 1943-ish military half-track. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Army half-track. Anyway, and it looks more like the dinosaurs you see in the museum. It really don't have a lot to it right now, but I'm trying to make it usable again. But most people don't even know what a half-track is, and so I'm a little bit of an oddball there. I've also never played a game of golf, okay? I've been on a golf course, but I was picking up golf balls and things like that, but I've never played golf. And I've really never sat and watched the Super Bowl. So I'm definitely a little different than the average person, and all I want to say tonight to everyone out there, especially our students, it's okay to be different. In fact, it's great to be different. And when you see somebody that's different, find out a little bit about them, and you might find they're not as different as you think. And secondly, it's also okay sometimes to just put the work aside, put the responsibilities aside, and just let your brain do something that'll bring you a little bit of joy. It may not make you any money, and when you get to be my age, you think about money all the time, but it's okay to take those days off, and I encourage everybody to take a few hours off here and there and reset your little clock inside so that you don't wind up and break. And that's what I wanted to share. Y'all have a good evening.
Mrs. Nash.
Okay, I'm going to speed through this because we're trying to get out for daylight savings. All right, so Blaze, you were absolutely amazing. To our future pilots that were here, that was inspiring. We're going to find you that money somewhere, some way, somehow. It is now my mission. So that's what I'll say about that. And then also shout out, because one of them, Mr. Infante, he goes to my church, and so it's always really great to see a lot of the Grace Life kids out here, just doing really amazing things in our district. So it was a nice, little parallel world there. So congrats to Ridgeview Blazers men's basketball team. I have to tell y'all, my husband was an announcer for them for a while, and on Saturday, I came home, he was outside doing a video with his Ridgeview Blazers sweatshirt on, talking about how proud he was of them, and I said, he thinks he's an honorary Ridgeview Blazer. So anyway, so you have a new honorary Ridgeview Blazer named Kelly Nash, and he loves you guys. And so congratulations to them, to the Blythewood women basketball team. I call them women and young men because that's what they're growing up to be. And so I know they're called boys and girls, but there you go. Then also to everybody that worked on the calendar, I don't know how y'all do that. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. My head spins just looking at those little squares. So, the creativity and all the work that you put into that, thank you. I absolutely appreciate it. And I don't know who's going to win. This was a close one. But I must say, this is what I do love, and this is something I did have in my notes as well, is the participation on the budget, the participation on the calendar. One of the things when I got on this board, what I wanted to see more of was the participation and the collaboration between our community and the board administration, and to see that is phenomenal. And so I want to thank you all for just being willing to give us a chance to hear, and you just being willing to come out and step up. So thank you for that. For our history lesson, thank you, sir, for being here. And then lastly, it is Women's History Month, and I have the incredible and sometimes annoying just privilege to be surrounded by a lot of amazing women. Most of them come from my household because there are, I don't even know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 girls in my family between my mother, my sister, and my nieces. So my nephew and my father have a really rough time. But I want to say to all the women out there and the young women and the women who are watching, one of the things that my mom always talked about was Proverbs 31, and not in that cliche way that, people talk about it. If you really read it, there's so many really great things, but one of the things she would never let us leave home without is this line: she is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. I hope that you all do that, and I just want to say thank you all for being here and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Mrs. Nash. Mrs. Porter?
Thank you. I wanted to remind community members that March 31st will be here before you know it, and that is the pre-K registration deadline. So many times people will say, I didn't even know that was there, and I didn't have time to register. So March 31st is right around the corner. Please don't forget, share with your friends and your neighbors. Also, Care Solace is offered to not just students, but also our staff members. This is a free service of counseling, and I always want to remind everyone of that service when I can. Also, thank you to community members for coming out to many events across the district. I had the pleasure of reading to 5th graders at Bridge Creek Elementary. Thank you for those invitations and all of those who participated. For Women's History Month, Blaze named a few, but there are so many jewels that we have here in Richland too. I love that this month kicks off when the flowers begin to bloom. It reminds me of all of the seeds that have been sown by the many fabulous women within Richland too. So thank you so much to our community of amazing leaders and women. And I also thought about a young lady listening to our future pilots today, Kamora Freeland. And I want you to look her up. So this is a female pilot that goes to Spelman College and had the pleasure or had the opportunity to get a pilot's license. And listening to those, the pilots or the future pilots that came in today, I definitely thought about Kamora Freeland, especially the young lady who won the scholarship. So if you can look her up, please do. And that's all I have. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, first, I want to start off by wishing a happy belated birthday to Mrs. Williams. Her birthday was yesterday. I offered to sing, but she said no. So we'll just say happy birthday. And yes, I know. And to Blaze, thank you for bringing joy. I love silly jokes, those dad corny jokes. I'm a Muppets fan from way back, so I love Fozzie Bear's terrible jokes. So thank you, Blaze. And we've already had a lot of information shared around the basketball tournament, but congratulations to the Blythewood High School girls basketball team for their win. You know, history was made on Friday night in the 2025 South Carolina High School League Class 5A Division I State Boys Basketball Championship game. History was made because this marks the first time that two Richland School District teams have faced off with each other for the state championship. The Ridgeview boys were the winners by a score of 71-47. And I'll just add this little note there that some people may not realize, but this is Ridgeview's 6th championship in 8 years. Now, Mr. Trapp said he's never watched a Super Bowl, but I'm a huge football fan. And everybody was talking about, before the Super Bowl this year, the Chiefs and a dynasty, because it would be their 3rd Super Bowl. Well, I think we can say Ridgeview's basketball team, boys basketball team, is a dynasty. 6 championships in 8 years. But I know our Blythewood girls are going to be bringing it home again next year. So congratulations to them. Joseph Keels Elementary was named a National Beta Club School of Merit. So we want to offer our congratulations to them. This prestigious honor reflects their dedication to academic excellence and their commitment to celebrating student achievements. So, by offering National Beta to all eligible grades, you are providing students with valuable leadership development and service involvement opportunities that will help strengthen and shape their futures. And in the last board highlights, Mr. Trapp mentioned about leadership class and going into the class at Richland Northeast. Well, we are taking leadership opportunities down to the elementary school. Continuing in the world of academics, I just want to let the board know that the 3rd round of data meetings are in process, and our principals are reflecting on the systems and strategies that have worked in their buildings in the 2024-2025 school year as they lead faculty, staff, students, and families into the final weeks of the school year. Now, during this time, school leadership and staff are doing the vital work of staying calm and focused while ensuring good communication and support with families. And I have been extremely impressed by the intentions and systematic thinking exhibited by our school leaders in data conversations and visits. Our Richland 2 Academic Department will be holding the first of its annual Instructional Leadership and Planning Conference at Blythewood High School on June 9th and 10th of 2025. Now, at this meeting, school and district leaders will work together to plan around joint priorities for the 2025-2026 school year. And we're very excited because this year's keynote speaker will be and I practice his name, Kafili. Yes, a leading author for providing effective classroom and school leadership strategies. His latest book, What is my value instructionally to the teachers and supervisors? It offers support, stories, and practical strategies for focusing on instructional side of leadership and to improve teacher pedagogy and enable student achievement to rise. We also had our Heart Health Walk. So let me ask you a question. What do you get when you combine tennis shoes, sunshine, a midday walk, and healthy heart snacks? And they were actually good. The kind of brain break that leads to greater productivity, healthier employees, and new connections with colleagues. So our Heart Health Walk at the district office was a huge success, and everyone involved is already looking forward to the next lap, inside or outside. So it was a great opportunity. This is Women's Month, as we've been sharing, and I just want to say I have the privilege of standing on the shoulders of a woman who not only birthed me, but inspired me, and that would be my mother. I come from a family of women also. I have 2 sisters. I am the oldest, and my mother did not finish high school originally. She had scarlet fever. Her mother had passed away, so she stayed home to take care of her younger brothers and sisters. And when my parents divorced, my mother went back to school, earned her GED, then went to school and became a LPN, then went back and became an RN, and then went back and became a nurse anesthetist. She modeled excellence to me every single day, and she told us that education was important. And because of her, I sit here today. So she's gone home to be with the Lord, but I know she's smiling as she looks down on me because she inspired me to be what I am today. And Mr. Trapp, I just want to thank you. I'm letting my team know I'm taking tomorrow off because you said I need to take a day off and experience joy. So I'm just thinking I should do that. Thank you.
I think my colleagues basically have said everything that I have down, but I just want to add just a few things. And of course, happy Women's History Month. I too come from a family of a lot of strong women. My mother is the oldest of 5 sisters. So I just want to say happy Women's History Month to my mother, my grandmother who raised me, and to all of my aunties, and to my colleagues on the board. Thank you so much for your leadership and serving on the board. Blaze, you're just amazing. That's all I have to say to you. So amazing. Also want to say thank you to Maya Williams and Dr. Brenda Mack Foxworth for allowing me to serve as the guest speaker for their AP Scholars and Palmetto Fellows luncheon. It was so wonderful, and those students are so amazing. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. And then I also would love to have a moment of silence. You know, I know every board meeting I'm coming with that, but hopefully we'll get past that and bring more joy. But I want to just do a moment of silence for a childhood friend, Angie Stone, if you guys are I'm familiar with her, just an icon, someone who was truly down to earth that I had the opportunity to know from childhood. Someone who was one of the first hip hop rappers around here. The group, I think it was called The Sequence. She started her business back in the 1970s. And I always loved to see Angie because when she see me, she would say, "Girl, you holding it down in Richland too?" And I just want to say to the Stone family, we send our prayers and our condolences. So if we can just give a moment of silence to the Stone family. Thank you so much for that. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Washington?
I move to adjourn the March the 11th, 2025 regular board meeting.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Washington to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Board members, about a hand vote, all in favor? Raise your right hand. Oh. That's 7 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. The meeting stands adjourned.